This is a story of a woman who set the same goal for 6 years in a row, and failed at it 6 years in a row. Not because she wasn't capable. Not because she didn't want it badly enough. She failed for a reason almost nobody tells you about, and once she understood it, everything changed. If you've ever set a goal in January and quietly abandoned it by March, this one's for you. Her name was Mara, and every year, on the 1st of January, she wrote the same goal at the top of a fresh notebook: get healthy. For real this time. She meant it every single time. She wasn't lying to herself, at least not on purpose. She'd buy the groceries, download the app, set the alarm for 6 a.m. And every year, by the third week of March, the notebook would end up in a drawer, the app would sit unopened on her phone for months, and she'd tell herself the same story: I just don't have the discipline other people have. Something is wrong with how I'm wired. 6 years of this. 6 notebooks, most of them abandoned around the same point, not from a lack of trying, but from something she couldn't quite name. She tried harder each year. More intense workouts. Stricter food rules. Bigger, bolder declarations to friends about how this year would be different. And each year, the collapse came faster, not slower, like she was somehow getting worse at this instead of better. By her 6th attempt, she'd stopped telling anyone about her goals at all. It felt safer that way. Quieter failures hurt less than public ones. But privately, she was starting to believe the thing she feared most: that she simply wasn't the kind of person who finished what she started. Year 7 started the same way. New notebook. New 6 a.m. alarm. New rules, this time, the strictest yet. No sugar, no skipped workouts, no exceptions, not even on weekends. She lasted 9 days. On day 10, she skipped a workout because she was sick. On day 11, still recovering, she skipped again. And by day 12, something in her simply gave up, not gradually, but all at once. The way a dam doesn't crack slowly, it just breaks. She ordered takeout, skipped the app notification without opening it, and sat on her couch feeling the particular exhaustion of failing at something for the 7th year running. That night, scrolling without really seeing anything, she came across an old college friend's post. Not about fitness, nothing dramatic. Just an offhand comment about how she'd been walking 20 minutes every day for the past year and how it had somehow become the easiest part of her routine. Mara almost scrolled past it. 20 minutes of walking felt laughably small compared to the strict, all-or-nothing plans she'd been building and collapsing for 6 years. But something about the word easiest stuck with her. None of her plans had ever felt easy. Not once, not even in the good weeks. She messaged her friend, mostly out of curiosity, half expecting some secret trick she'd been missing. What she got instead was almost disappointingly simple. I didn't do anything special, her friend wrote back. I just stopped trying to fix everything at once. 20 minutes of walking. That's it. I didn't add a diet plan, I didn't join a gym, I didn't set an alarm an hour earlier than I actually wanted to wake up. I just walked. Some days it was raining and I did 10 minutes instead of 20, and I let that count. I think that's the actual secret, letting the small version count, instead of treating anything less than perfect like a failure. Mara read that message 3 times. It contradicted almost everything she'd believed about goals for the past 6 years, that bigger commitment meant more seriousness, that strict rules were a sign of how much she wanted something, that letting a smaller version count was basically cheating. But when she thought honestly about her 6 failed years, a pattern emerged that she'd never let herself see clearly before. She hadn't failed because her goals were too easy. She'd failed because they were too rigid, built with zero room for a sick day, a bad week, a rainy morning. Every plan she'd ever made was structured so that the first bad day became proof the whole thing was broken, instead of just being a single missed day in a much longer story. She realized, sitting there with her phone still lit up in the dark room, that she'd never actually been failing at discipline. She'd been failing at designing a goal that could survive contact with an ordinary, imperfect life. The next morning, she almost wrote a new set of rules out of old habit: a full meal plan, a stricter workout schedule, something that felt appropriately serious. She caught herself halfway through the first line and stopped. Instead, she wrote one sentence: walk for at least 10 minutes, every day, no matter what. Not 20 minutes, like her friend. 10. Deliberately smaller, almost embarrassingly small, because she wanted a version of this goal so modest that even her worst days couldn't break it. If she was busy, 10 minutes. If she was tired, 10 minutes. If it was raining, 10 minutes on the spot in her living room, pacing back and forth like it was somehow going to count the same as walking outside. She decided, this time, that it would. The first week felt almost too easy, suspiciously easy, in a way that made her nervous. Old instincts told her that easy meant it wasn't working, that real change was supposed to hurt. But she kept going anyway, mostly out of stubbornness now more than motivation. On day 9, the exact point where her strict January plan had always collapsed in years past, she got sick. The same kind of minor cold that had ended attempt after attempt before. This time, she didn't skip the walk entirely. She did 5 minutes, slow, wrapped in a blanket, pacing her hallway. It felt almost silly. But it also felt like something she hadn't managed in 6 years. She hadn't broken the streak. The goal had survived the one moment that had always killed it before. 4 months in, she noticed something she hadn't expected. She'd started walking longer than 10 minutes most days, not because she'd forced herself to, but because most days, once she was out there, stopping at 10 minutes felt more effortful than just continuing. The goal that had once felt embarrassingly small had quietly grown on its own, without her ever having to white-knuckle her way through an ambitious plan. She still had bad days. A stretch in February where a work project ate every spare hour, and walking became pacing around her kitchen for 4 minutes at 11 at night before collapsing into bed. She let it count anyway. That was the whole point, a goal designed to survive imperfection, not one that demanded she be a slightly different, more disciplined person than she actually was. By the 6th month, she realized she hadn't broken her streak once, not in the all-or-nothing sense her old goals had always demanded, but in the sense that mattered. She hadn't gone 2 days in a row without doing something, even if that something was 5 minutes in a hallway wrapped in a blanket. For the first time in 6 years, she wasn't dreading the moment her goal would inevitably collapse. There was no cliff edge built into the plan this time. There was nothing left to collapse. Here's what Mara came to understand, and what I think most people never get told directly enough. You don't keep failing at your goals because you lack discipline. You keep failing because most goals are designed to break the moment life gets even slightly inconvenient, and life is always, eventually, slightly inconvenient. A goal that only survives on your best days isn't really a goal. It's a fragile plan waiting for its first bad week to prove it was never going to work. Real, lasting change comes from building something so small, so resilient, that even your worst version of a day can still complete it. Not because small is impressive. Because small survives. The paradox is that the goals that feel too embarrassingly small to be worth bragging about are usually the only ones that actually last long enough to become something worth bragging about. The 10-minute walk that felt like giving up on ambition was the exact thing that got her, eventually, further than any of her strict 6-week plans ever had. You are not failing because you're weak. You're failing because you keep building goals that only work when everything else in your life is going right, and everything else in your life is rarely going right for very long. If you've failed at the same goal more than once, I don't think it's because something is wrong with you. I think your goal was built to break. So here's the only real advice in this whole story. Whatever you're trying to change, make the smallest version of it you can imagine, the version so small it feels almost silly to write down. Then protect that small version fiercely, even on your worst days, instead of chasing an ambitious version that only survives on your best ones. You don't need a better version of yourself to finally succeed. You need a smaller, sturdier goal that the version of you who already exists can actually keep. What's the goal you've failed at more than once? Tell me in the comments, and what would the smallest, sturdiest version of it look like? If this story helped you see your own pattern a little differently, subscribe, there's more of these coming.